Hello, friends. Welcome to another podcast session. In our session today, I would like to talk about the inner dialogue or conversation we have with ourselves and the key role it plays in our life, especially our mental health. This is a continue the earlier episodes on the same topic, that's inner dialogue, and this is the fifth in the series. In our today's session, I would like to talk about one of the practice through which we can really help refine and move our inner self-talk or inner dialogue to a positive one. And this practice is called distance self-talk. And one of the ways you create this distance self-talk with your own self-talk is through help of a language. So let's say you find yourself tell yourself to your inner self, which are more negative, and you're like worrying or you're ruminating, you're thinking a lot where you constantly criticize yourself or think in a very negative connotations. One of the ways to create a distance, and the ways to create a distance, and the very word or the term distance self-talk is by the use of a language. So how we do that is by using, either you use your own name in doing so, or the term which we usually use for second person, which is you, when you refer to yourself in your inner self-talk. Now, what happens is there has been experiments done at various psychology labs which help the neuroscientists understand that help of a language and using our name or using the second person term like you instead of writing I or starting anything with I, like let's say someone constantly is very self criticizing of their own self. So they say, I am such a dumb, or I couldn't do this, I am such a jerk, or I am a failure. So this internal self-talk is not only creating a lot of stress in your mind, you're constantly feeding your subconscious mind with a message which is very, very negative, and which then eventually may lead to create the same things that you've been telling yourself into a belief. So someone who've been telling over years to their own self that I am a failure, or I couldn't do this, or I don't think I deserve this, is actually feeding their subconscious mind. And now to replace this, when you practice distance self-talk, one of the ways you can find ease here, powerful way to really replace your negative self-talk to a more positive one, so that you end up feeding your subconscious mind, that area of your brain which is the most active, with a more positive message. And believe me, friends, this is so powerful that what you tell yourself in most cases manifest into it. So you tell negative, all negative things follow. You tell yourself positive stuff. It may take time, but if you believe and say it, you will find there is a change. So distance self-talk helps you using your same inner chatter, but by either using your own name or using the second person, like saying you, where you refer yourself. Now let me share with you an example here, how you do that. So few days ago, I was her, and she had some change in her hypertensive tablets. Now her medication changed, but there was not a great change in her blood pressure levels. So I had to go back and forth for some tests and for some new medications. And amidst this stressful situation that I was in, I have this habit of constantly getting into a rumination mode, and this I have because of my own traumatic experience of being a caregiver to my father, who was ill for a very, very long. Because I carry this trauma of the words of blood pressure, heart ailments, doctors, medicines, diagnosis, test, it's not very easy for me to deal with it in a more positive way. So I automatically slip into my own stories of rumination and catastrophizing and worrying. And here's when I use this technique where instead of the negative chatter I knew I was feeding my subconscious mind, I kind of just, while I was journaling, wrote, Manaz. Here I used my name. I said, Manaz, what is it you think you're trying to achieve here? Or in one of the statements, actually, while I was writing it, instead of writing, I am worried, I think I should do this, I think I should refer to that another opinion, I said, Manaz, pause. Manaz, what do you think you really want to achieve? What's your goal, Manaz? The moment I did this, and this is a distant self-talk, which I'm sharing with you, where I use the help of a language, I found that my narration shifted, because the very use of my word, of my name, Mehnaz, or of the second person, so you can even use you, but my name. And when you create that name and talk to yourself, it actually is a very powerful practice that helps you kind of create that distance between what you're talking to yourself. It's like you give yourself your own inner self-talk, a space to step out of the situation and look at it from a different perspective. So when I used my name, I actually paused for a second, and it kind of really calmed me down. The use of language actually kind of helped my emotional brain, amygdala, which was hijacked by the past trauma and my constant worries, into a state where I was no longer stuck in that worry cycle. Rather, I was thinking, okay, let me pause, take a breath, and what's Manaz up to? And immediately I got an answer to it. So friends, sharing my own experience and an example, if you ever find yourself going through a very difficult experience, you could use the same technique in two ways. One, you can, the way I did, like use your name, and while you talk to yourself, and you'll find that there will be a distant self-talk, and it will give us from within you itself. That's one way. Another way you could do it here is, if you like to write, if you're somebody who journals, write using your name and see the difference it brings in. Moving on, there's another way you could do this, create this or practice distant self-talk, is by, if you feel this is difficult, imagine that in a given situation, you become your own best friend. So you might need to just imagine a bit that you step out of it, and you are now supposed to advise your best friend going through the same problem that you are in. So you have to imagine. So let's say, let me continue with my own example. While I was worried about my mother's health, if I were in that situation, or if my friend was in that situation, my best friend, what advice would I give to my best friend? So here I took myself out of the situation, and I imagine my best friend, right now, on account of his mother's health, my best friend had a trauma of being a caregiver to her father for 5 years, and she still carries that in her head. So having given that situation, what advice will I give to my best friend? The moment I thought this, I had a flow of ideas coming in, and it really calmed down my mind. And I was ready with some practical things that I could actually do instead of just sitting and worrying. So you could do this as well. Finally, this one technique, this is again a practice of distant self-talk, but this was something that I learned from an author by name Lara Zelin. As part of a journaling international community, I happened to once connect with her, and she taught to us that being an author, I mean, she shared her experience of writing books and use of characters and how she adds power and shape those characters. And in her experience, she came up with this a very beautiful and powerful method and technique called third person journaling. It's very similar to what I just shared, wherein you would use your own name and journal. So Laura explained this to us with her example, wherein she thought to herself one day, so this character she was building, instead of that character, what if she wrote a book on her life? She titled that as Lara's Life, and instead of giving power to the characters that she's written, she gave it a name. She named the character as Lara, and she felt it was relatively easy for her to imagine all good things that could happen to Lara the character, while when she was doing it on her own, like trying to free herself up from the negativity or negative mindset or anything where she felt she was not good enough. This technique helped her really move out of her negative worry cycle and manifest a life of more positive outcomes, joy, happiness, and fulfillment. All you have to do is, when you journal in third person, using your own name. And that's what Lara did, and maybe you can also do that. So this is one of those methods that I also personally use in my journal, sometimes, not most of the times, where I feel I really need to imbibe or embody certain things which were difficult to come by, because we all come in with the baggage of our own failures and experiences. Using your own name when you write your own story, you can rewrite and in the most positive way and manifest the best outcomes for yourself. So try this. I'll share the content in the comment box where you could just take the template and can practice it. Well, friends, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll practice this, and this might help you just the way it did for me rewrite your inner dialogue. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.